Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to Translation and Interpretation Program. I'm Turo David, translator, interpreter from Self-Professional Department. Today we are going to talk about the cross-cultural problem that translators are facing. That was the last word of the previous video, cross-cultural problem. So, before diving in that cross-cultural problem in translation, let's have a history of translation theory so that we can understand what is all about translation techniques or translation procedures. We all know that translators have played a major and significant role in the history of humanity. That is an incredible accomplishment for them. Thanks to them that all cultures have benefited from the others in terms of science, knowledge, wisdom, and other matters. So the history of translation theory is the study of the retrospective comprehension of translation techniques or procedure. So without further ado, let's go to the antiquity time while the Greek was ruling, the Greek ruling era. The Greek translated the Hebrew Bible into their language by adopting thought-for-thought procedure of translation. This procedure of translation allowed them to ignore the style and the form of the source text and respecting or observing their linguistic construction or their linguistic background. This kind of procedure of translation allows to adapt the source text to the culture of the target language. That is the purpose of that. So first of all, thought for thought. After Greek Empire, and then came Roman Empire at the time of Saint Jerome, who was the secretary to Pope. He translated the Christian Bible into Latin. Vulgate, the title of that translated Bible. He adopted sense for sense or equivalent for equivalent procedure of translation. Cicero afterwards came into picture by saying that he cannot be a translator as an interpreter. He has to be an orator, being faithful to the style and the form of the source text, and that to reproduce it in the target language so that we can see the level of the aesthetic side or the level of artistic aspects of the language of source text as an artist, of course. From 500 AD to 16th, to 13th and 14th century, we have the rise of Muslim translators in Muslim or Islamic world. We are going to state only two of them. We have Abu Yahya ibn Batrak, who adopted word for word or literal translation. He translated many books. And we have also this one, Hunayn ibn Ishaq al-Jawahirin, who translated many books, Greek books, Egyptian books. He adopted equivalent for equivalence, equivalent sense for equivalent sense. He was one of the most influential translators at his time. From 16th century, we have an English translator, John Dryden, who came with his idea by saying that we have three types of translation. We have metaphrases, paraphrases, and imitation. Metaphrases means that word for word translation or literal translation. Paraphrases is sense for sense, equivalent sense for equivalent sense. And then imitation is to use both of them, which leads to adaptation. And after the English translator, we have the German translator, Friedrich Schleiermacher, who said that the translation is divided into two categories. The first one is technical translation, and the second one is scholarly or artistic translation. These two types open the doors to two sides: domestication or alienation. Domestication is to adapt the source text to the culture of the target text. Alienation is to completely embrace the style, the culture of the source text. That's where we see we have been deeply influenced, we have been deeply dominated by the idea, culture, science, spirituality of the foreign people or of the foreign culture. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you notice all these procedures of translation, you notice something out of it. What is the purpose of the translation? The kings, the authorities, group of people ordered the translation of books, documents, scripts for one interest, for the interest of the nation or for the interest of the next generation. That purpose can either be good for your culture or I'm not going to say bad, but you can alter your culture, it can modify or replace your culture. It depending on the will of the government in place or the authority or the kings, the way they want the translation to influence people in their nation. That's why we talk about the purpose of the translation. If we want, for example, to replace a completely a culture in place, we see we adopt the alienation and then we impose on everybody. But if we want to adapt it to our culture, you see we domesticate it. That's why I talk about the purpose of the translation. So, furthermore, the cross problem the translators are facing are numerous, but we are going to state three or two of them. First of all, for example, what I say cross problem is a problem that is related to concept, idea, or fact that exist in the source text and it doesn't exist in the target text, or is not at the same level of understanding. For example, common law. Common law is a part of English law that derives from customary practices and the decisions made by the judges in the tribunals, which is not written in the single document, partially. But when you translate it into French, you will have, based on literal translation, droit commun. And what is you are going to fail the meaning of common law by literal translation, droit commun. Because what is droit commun in French is not the same meaning of common law in English legal system. Because droit commun in French is written and applied to everybody. You see? And then common law is not that some decisions are made by the judges of the tribunals. That is considered as a law, case law, or the judgment can be based on precedent. You see how the court philosophy try to regulate cases, different cases. And in French also, you cannot translate it by droit coutumier because we say droit coutumier, customary law practices. That you cannot translate it by droit coutumier because droit coutumier est limité. Tu ne peux pas parler des juges pour le droit coutumier. Tu ne peux pas parler des juges des tribunaux pour le droit coutumier. Ce qui fait que tu vas rater le sens par ça. At last, common law has been maintained in the source term, like common law, like linguistic borrowing. They maintain the same name term in French, and they can expand it orally to explain, or in writing to explain the meaning of that. Donc, common law a été maintenu comme ça, comme terme comme un emprunt linguistique et qu'on utilise avec l'article défini au féminin, la common law. Maintenant, la common law, maintenant, comme c'est un terme, c'est un emprunt linguistique, donc c'est un terme anglais, on essaie d'adopter une opération de traduction qu'on a vue dans d'autres cours précédents, l'étoffement. Donc si c'est à l'oral, quand tu dis la common law, il y a lieu d'étoffer ici un peu pour faire comprendre le lecteur, les auditeurs ou les téléspectateurs. Maintenant, si c'est à l'écrit aussi, tu étoffes un peu entre parenthèses pour faire comprendre le sens au départ. Donc, ici, si vous avez bien remarqué, il y a eu ici deux procédures de traduction ou deux opérations de traduction. Un d'abord, borrowing, c'est-à-dire emprunt linguistique, et puis étoffement, expansion. So, on étoffe pour pouvoir expliquer, parce qu'on ne peut pas l'expliquer directement par un ou deux mots, parce qu'ils n'ont pas le même sens équivalent dans le système juridique français. Ce qui fait un peu la complexité des faits juridiques et des différentes juridictions en matière de loi et de droit entre le système juridique anglo-saxon et le système juridique français. Now we have another cross-cultural problem. For example, in the Bible, we can talk about the dragon. But the dragon is a symbol of evil in the Bible, which is bad, wrong. And when you go to China, the dragon is the symbol of protection, power, supremacy. And if you want to translate this part of Bible into their language, you see, the meaning of or the symbol behind the dragon, will be in contradiction with the mentality of Chinese towards the dragon. How can you translate so that you can make them understand what you mean by that when you say a dragon? But in their culture, dragon is not a symbol of bad or wrong. You see, for example, if the authority has seen this part of the Bible, sabotaging their good symbol, if everything depends on his order, he would not order to translate this kind of book, because it will be in contradiction with their mentality. And for the last one, when we go to the Eskimos in their environment, we don't have lamb over there. And if we say somebody is the Lamb of God, they don't know anything about lamb. They don't know of its existence. That's the problem. So you have to find another word that can match with lamb in the environment so that you can convey your message. You can convey your meaning, what you mean by that. That's why these kind of problems are current in translation environment or in translation work. So ladies and gentlemen, try to subscribe, like and comment, share it more so that we can expand our audience. Thank you very much for your attention. I rely on your support and reciprocal engagement or commitment. So let me take it in French for those who don't understand French. Donc, bonsoir mesdames et messieurs, vous êtes les bienvenus au cours de traduction et d'interprétation. Aujourd'hui, on va essayer de parler un peu de l'histoire